to start off with Will Rogers, who is President and CEO of the Trust for Public Land, TPL, as we all know it, which is a national nonprofit that conserves land for people to enjoy as parks, playgrounds, community gardens, farms, historic places, and wildernesses. Before joining TPL, Will managed urban infill redevelopment projects in a Chicago-based real estate development company, where he was involved in both new construction and the rehabilitation of vacant industrial buildings. He also has been a commercial beekeeper, founding and managing a commercial honey production company in Bogota, Colombia. A graduate of Stanford, received his MBA from Harvard, and his talk is entitled Geodesigning Our Way to Lovable Cities. So please welcome Will Rogers. Will.
Thanks so much, Tom. Thank you. I have to say I'm somewhat humbled being up here after Jack and Kunjan and in a room full of people, as Jack earlier said, Carl's mandate, make a difference. I know I'm in a room full of people who are here to make a difference. And for me, the fascination is what we're all doing to make a difference. And let me talk a little bit about the Trust for Public Land. I guess I should get my channel changer here. And to give you just a very little bit of context about what we do before talking about how we are moving into using geodesign and the benefits that it's having for the work that we do. As Tom said, we're a national land conservation organization. We've been around for 40 years. We were founded with a focus on people and connecting people with nature, which takes us from Main Street to mountaintop. So that means that we're working in community gardens, playgrounds, parks in New York City, or we're working in the remote wilds in the Hoback Basin, south of Jackson, Wyoming. But all with the focus on our connection with nature and making sure that we have healthy human habitat, which is a primary focus of the organization. We use GIS, we use geodesign outside the city limits, but what I want to talk to you about is the work that we're doing in cities around the country. As an environmental and conservation organization, we deliver a number of different services on the vision and planning on the front end, increasingly using GIS, mapping, geodesign. We help communities pass bond initiatives. We've done about $35 billion over the last 15 years of conservation funding at the state and local level. We do complex real estate deals. My real estate background helps there, although now I refer to myself as an undeveloper as opposed to a developer. We work with communities in participatory design, doing park design and development. And then our research and education is very much about best practices when it comes to city parks, but also looking at things like the health value of parks or the economic contribution of a park system to its city. The ecology of conservation organizations, environmental organizations, historically has been very much focused on species, plants and critters. We certainly are involved in habitat protection. Clearly, GIS is absolutely a critical element of that. You can see from the map that we are in an endangered species hotspot. But I'd like to turn our focus to a different species. And we heard earlier about survival. And so I want to submit that if you looked at whether or not our species is endangered or not, there's some real serious questions there. If you think about the fact that we are the one species that can truly shape its own habitat, and look back at where we emerged 150 or 200,000 years ago as Homo sapiens, we haven't physically changed much over that period of time, a mere evolutionary moment. And then you look at what we're doing now in terms of the habitat we're shaping. I would suggest that not only are we damaging ourselves, but we're damaging the planet and all those other species that we care about. So really the question is, from our point of view, as an organization focused on people and a healthy human habitat, what do we do to fix that? This map shows some of the problem. This is the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Maps are great for telling stories, and we certainly use them in that way. Dark green are parks, light green park service areas. For us, that's a half-mile or a 10-minute walk. We believe every urban American should be within a 10-minute walk of a park. Orange, areas not served by parks, and red areas, high populations of low-income kids, and we would regard that as truly endangered kids habitat. So the way we look at this as a nonprofit organization trying to make a difference in our own way is, first of all, how do we use our work, our impact, and geodesign, frankly, to connect people with nature, really create healthy human habitat, to make sure on a more granular level that everyone is within a 10-minute walk, and how do we create change? How do we use these tools to create change? First of all, to create awareness, and second of all, to engage people in actually making a difference and doing things differently. And we certainly heard how that can work in China from the top down. In our country, it's a whole lot more challenging in dealing with the political situation, dealing with the marketplace, and a whole host of other factors, which is why the ability to tell stories and engage people in a very public way has become so important. We like getting communities involved in actually creating their parks to create that sense of ownership and participation, which in the long run also leads to much better stewardship, which is a huge challenge for our park systems. And then finally, for ourselves, internally as an organization, how do we make sure we're doing the work that has the most important impacts? How do we choose amongst different investment opportunities or where we're going to put staff time to make sure that what we're doing is making the biggest difference? So a tool that we've developed, working very closely with Esri and Jack and with wonderful help from his folks, is something called Parkscore. And it was developed as a way to essentially rank, or as one journalist put it with whom we work, rank and spank, cities across the board, starting with 40 cities. Last year we did 50 cities. This year we're doing 60 cities, the largest cities in America, to really compare, for the first time ever, across multiple dimensions, how good their park systems are. And it's a combination of acreage, median park size, and park acres as a percentage of city area. It's service and investment, per capita spending, as well as amenities. And then it's also access, that 10-minute walk or half mile that we feel so strongly about. And that's what we call Parkscore. We have come up with a rating system. A city gets 1 bench, 2 benches, depending on what their park score is. But also underneath that, there's a website with a lot of maps, a lot of demographic information that really allows elected officials and the public to dig in and find out how their cities are doing relative to other cities. And never underestimate the power of competition when you're trying to move public opinion or when you're trying to move elected officials. So we have a website that shows the different cities. When we first did it, San Francisco, our home city, was on top, pure coincidence. When we added 10 more cities, Minneapolis, Tom, came out as #1. Fresno continues to be at the bottom of the heap. But again, you can dig in, find out what a city is doing and how it compares to other cities along these different standards. And I'm sorry to say that there are a whole lot more cities with orange and red in the way that Atlanta has here than there are like San Francisco. So our work is certainly cut out for us if we're focused on healthy human habitat. We did get the kind of attention that we wanted to get. And again, this was very much about raising the issue, building awareness, getting mayors, city councils, and the public to think about this. The headlines were what we wanted to see, everything from Oklahoma City low on parks ranking list, but should move up soon, to San Francisco park system ranked best in the nation. And more importantly to us, frankly, was what the mayors were saying. 100% of residents to be able to walk to a park. World-class city, maintaining, improving a park system. We'll work towards moving up to the top 10 when the Park Trust for Public Land issues their next Parkscore. So clearly we were getting the kind of traction that we wanted to get with the people who can make a difference and make the investments in cities to have really wonderful park systems and really improve human habitat, if you will. So then the question was, okay, what do we say to a mayor who says to us, okay, how do I improve my park score? And this is really where we move from GIS into geodesign with something that we called a park evaluator tool. And this allowed people to take the maps, and all of the data obviously have been provided by cities and checked through with us. The access is walking access, not a simple radius, to the park entrance from where you live, not allowed to fly over freeways. And provide the cities with this data, and then a tool that allows them either to sketch in potential parks, upload their GIS shape files for potential parks, or just pick vacant parcels that are candidates for parks. And then our geoprocessing tool, Parkscore tool, runs in the background, and what they get out is a report and a map. And the report tells them what kind of communities, the demographic profile of the people that will be served by these new potential parks, as well as what it would do to their park score. So this is being beta tested in Houston, in Atlanta, in Fresno, which is at the bottom of the list. They're desperate to see their park score improve. And it is a real tool that so far anyway is getting enormous response, and people really appreciate it. Now they're above and beyond competition, and cities competing to get the young, upwardly mobile citizens that they want for a healthy future and to have higher quality of life. There are two other factors that are really driving these investments and make cities so thoughtful about better park systems. One is health. We have an obesity epidemic. It's leading to diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and the two ways that you can really take on obesity are exercise and diet. So if citizens don't have places where they can exercise outdoors, and if they can't afford health clubs, then they're in real trouble. And the health industry is understanding that. They're pushing cities. There's a lot of pressure on cities to think about health. And so again, Parkscore is a way of thinking about where the communities are that most need these kinds of investments. And not just a park nearby, but a park with a fitness zone, a group of outdoor health club type machines that people can use on a regular basis for free. And we've used that tool. This is Los Angeles County, where we've located about 40 of these fitness zones, but we're doing them around the country. And we were able to take our Parkscore data, get very granular obesity data from the CDC and overlay the two, and that helped us design locations and work with cities to help them understand where they need to be making these investments in fitness zones. The other thing that's driving cities and creating much greater investments in parks, and we heard from Kunjan, we heard some really terrific examples of what's happening in China to try to address climate issues through a number of different perspectives. We have a program we call Climate Smart Cities. Yes, we work outside cities on forests, carbon sequestration, tree planting, a whole host of things. But inside the city limits, we have a mantra of 4 words, and that's connect, cool, absorb, and protect. And once again, GIS, geodesign, is helping us help cities think about how they can use, whether you call it ecological infrastructure, green infrastructure, as opposed to gray infrastructure, to begin to solve these problems and get the multiple stacked benefits that a park gives you rather than the limited benefits you get from pipes and underground storage tanks. And whether we're talking about the East Side rail corridor on the east of Seattle that we hope will become a bike hike superhighway as a way of connecting, lowering fossil fuel consumption, increasing health. When we're talking about cooling and heat island effect, pretty much everything we do in all these areas, that involves vegetation, street trees, pervious surfaces, is all helping the heat island effect, which actually is much more serious at night than during the day, which is when a lot of the deaths occur from heat waves. To the absorb and the sponge parks that we're doing, we're able to overlay, Cleveland has, and a lot of cities, something like 700 cities have combined sewer and stormwater problems. We're working with Cleveland right now in the Northeast Ohio Sewer District, which incidentally has more money for parks than the city of Cleveland does, so that's nice. But we're overlaying hydrology and places where they have serious overflow and runoff issues with Parkscore, and where the need is greatest for parks where the communities have the least mobility. And we're able to use, again, complex challenge, a design solution that requires really understanding a whole host of issues, makes this perfect for a geodesign type solution. And we're looking at demographics, parks need, what kind of park in those different places, where the runoff occurs, where land is available, the 10-minute walk, soils profile and absorption, even funding and where we can get the funding resources to do this. And we can put that all together with this tool, and it's making an enormous difference in Cleveland. We're doing it in Philadelphia and a number of other cities. In fact, it's almost becoming malpractice not to design schoolyards, playgrounds, parks that actually retain stormwater in cities where they have CSO problems. And then finally on the climate side is understanding, again, through the wonderful benefit of layered data, where the real challenges are and where the opportunities are when it comes to big storms and stormwater buffers. New York Harbor is a perfect example of that. Post-Sandy, a lot of people are focusing on this. But where wetlands were protected, the uplands actually fared a whole lot better than where we were developed right on the water's edge. But in addition to that, how do you protect the wetlands and how do you engineer to get the maximum benefit? And that's something that we're working on right now, and I would suggest that understanding those impacts is a key element to the future success of geodesign in this area. And then finally, from our own internal perspective as an organization and wanting to know that what we're doing has the most impact, we look at every project that we do, everything that we could take on, and we run it through our Parks for People Impacts Estimator tool. We haven't come up with an acronym for that yet. But it's a checklist, basically, and it says, who are you touching? In what way? What kind of a difference are you making? And how do you compare this against other populations that you could be working for? And then I'll close by showing some befores and afters, which really, to me, demonstrate the excitement that's going on in cities around the country as they work to create more livable habitat for humans, large signature parks, but also small neighborhood parks. And whether we're talking about the conversion of a Unital Kank farm in Seattle to the Olympic Sculpture Park, a joint venture we did with the Seattle Art Museum, or the before of Millennium Park parking lot and rail with the after, which is an absolutely extraordinary cultural center for the city of Chicago, the New York High Line that was going to get torn down, but now look at it and the amazing investment it's led to in the surrounding Chelsea neighborhood. Post Office Square in Boston is one that was just a hideous presence in that part of town. And if you look at what's there now, it's an extraordinary transformation. Or if you look at schoolyards, and we've done about 180 of these with Mayor Bloomberg and the city of New York to really take neighborhoods that didn't have other land and say, let's use the parking lots where teachers were parking. Let's work with the kids to redesign those playgrounds into green schoolyards. And while we're at it, let's engineer them to hold water, stormwater, between 1 and 2 inches to help the city deal with its combined sewer overflow problem. So these are some of the things that are going around. We couldn't be more excited, and taking a step back, I want to agree with the earlier speakers that the level of complexity that we're facing when we're solving our design problems has gotten so great, and if we don't get all the ologies together, we're not going to be able to solve those problems. And I think more and more the planet is becoming the client. And to the extent that we can use information, that we can use geodesign to respond to our client, we're all going to be a whole lot better off.